Shalom, this is Levi Shore. Welcome back to Sweet and Good Torah. Today's going to be a little different. I'm going to give my personal experience with chronic fatigue syndrome, and I'm going to talk about my experiences and give a little bit of my perspective from a Torah view of what my experience with the illness has been. So basically, it was about 7 years ago on Purim that I started getting sick. I started getting some kind of flu. It's a little hard to remember, but I think I had like a lot of congestion. I was like constantly coughing, just felt normal things you feel with flu, just like dizzy, tired, all that fun stuff. So it started on Purim. Like I started getting like a scratch in my throat in Purim, and it went all the way through to Pesach, through Passover, and then I think it was somewhere between Pesach and Shavuos where finally that flu went away. So just if you're not familiar with the holidays, just give you a time frame. So Purim is a month before Pesach, before Passover, and then between this, on the second day of Passover, we count 49 days of the Omer, and then that leads to Shavuos, which is on the 50th day. So it was a couple of months we're talking about of like this flu. So I got tested years later by a doctor who found that I tested positive for I think it's mycoplasma pneumonia, which I believe is called walking pneumonia. So I'm not totally sure if that was that flu I had originally, but it would seem to make sense with walking pneumonia that could have been what it was. And then the strange thing was, so I was like relieved. After like this crazy like 2 months or whatever it was with this crazy flu, I was finally done. Oh, great, the flu's over. I had no idea that was when the fun was going to begin. So then all of a sudden I started noticing like I would have pain like all over my body. Like at that time I noticed it much more in my legs and I think my back and shoulders, just everywhere. And I was really tired. So at the time I was in yeshiva, I was in a rabbinical school, and I was learning to try to get to smicha, to get a rabbinical degree. And it just became like really, really difficult. Like it started becoming really hard to get up in the morning. I was just so exhausted. I'd sleep all night and I could barely get up, and it was really hard to get out of bed. I would have a lot of pain. It became really, really hard to concentrate. I think like they call the symptom brain fog. And even just when I could make it in, even it was weird. I would just be sitting there learning. Now it is like intense concentration when you're like learning Gemara and you're learning halacha, but just the whole act of sitting there learning with a charusa, with a study partner, I would get more and more pain and really exhausted, just as the day went on. Now, if someone's learning in yeshiva, they know the experience of like there is a severe mental exhaustion, and you are pretty tired after a day, in yeshiva, and especially if you learn 3 Sederim. There's like a morning Seder, an afternoon Seder, and then people learn night Seder. But this was just like, just even like that first Seder, I was in so much pain just sitting there learning and just physically exhausted and just crazy. So I went to my doctor. He sent me to a rheumatologist, and the rheumatologist did all kinds of blood tests. And how the blood test works for this chronic fatigue syndrome is basically they start ruling out everything. Okay, we did a blood test, and you don't have mono, you don't have Epstein-Barr, you don't have lupus, you don't have Lyme's disease. All these things they start testing for that you don't have. And then there's no positive way right now to do a test and say, okay, you have this chronic fatigue syndrome. So the truth of the matter is, it's really weird. After 7 years now, I don't even know exactly what I have, but I have the symptoms of this chronic fatigue syndrome, and I just can't get rid of it. And it's really frustrating. I'm sure if anyone's watching this that has chronic fatigue syndrome, they can relate. So I want to give a little bit of my perspective from a Torah view, and I don't know. Unfortunately, I don't have some kind of cure. I don't know how to get rid of it. I really wish I did. Bezrat Hashem, I hope Hashem would send the refuah shlema, a complete healing to everyone that has this illness. And then I think one of the tougher things about it is like I went from doctor to doctor to doctor, every kind of doctor imaginable. I never even heard of some of these kind of doctors before. And no one knew. A test, you do all this test, you do that test, and then nothing comes up. I test, I think I tested low for usually like vitamin D. But I guess it's like when you're lying inside your bedroom all the time and you can't get much sunlight, it kind of makes sense that vitamin D would be low. And I think, and it's weird that I think most people that have this, they do test low for vitamin D, and I tested low for some other things at times, but those levels like change. Okay, and but I never tested low for great kids, so that's good. So let me give a little bit of my perspective, and I don't know. Hopefully, I mean, it will give other people a little bit of hope or inspiration. I don't know. We'll see. You can take it as it is. But my perspective is that that Hashem runs the world, and Hashem created the world, and Hashem created the world for everyone's good. So, right. So I don't think I just got this illness. Like, it wasn't just random that I got it. I mean, Hashem gave it to me for a reason. I mean, personally, right, I would rather not have it. I would rather be healthy. Like, I mean, it's been really frustrating to me because I haven't been able to. Where are you guys? I haven't been able to finish my rabbinical degree. It's been about 7 years, and it's still not done. And I really should have probably finished, like I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago or whatever. And that's been really tricky. So it's been very hard that I haven't got my degree. I've been pretty sick, so it's hard for me to go and teach Torah. And it's very hard on my family, especially my wife. And I do want to say one thing, is how grateful I am. I have such a great wife. Her name's Bracha, and she's unfortunately had to, there's a lot more that's been on her shoulders as I've had this illness, because it puts a big strain on everyone. You feel like you got kids on your back. That's what it's like. So right. So I don't think this, it happened randomly, and I don't think it's. I think there is some good to come out of it, and also I do believe there is a cure. I mean, I know I've been from doctor to doctor, and they don't know what the cure is right now. But I mean, the Torah says that before Hashem brings the makkah, before He brings the illness, He prepares the refuah. He prepares the healing. Makkos, right? You're heading into Pesach and Passover. There's the Aser Makkos, the 10 plagues. So, right. So I do believe it's good for the good, even though I don't want this, and I want to be healthy. I'm sure everyone else who has it does want to be healthy. But here's a couple things that I feel like I have picked up while having this. So one thing is, guys, is there any way I can just continue? So one thing I have learned is that really happiness is one thing we can control. Like, there's certain things we really can't control. One thing, unfortunately, being health. There's certain things for health that we can do. We can try to eat healthy, we can exercise, we can live a healthy lifestyle. But unfortunately, sometimes, I mean, if you're going to get sick, you're going to get sick. And even though at times, guys, please excuse me. Even though at times it's been very stressful, I do believe that happiness is a decision every day that we make or we don't make. So it can't just be like when everything's going right, and everything's going well, that's when we're going to be happy. Even if things are going not the way we want and we feel horrible and it's real frustrating, we can barely leave and we don't have a lot of social contact. And all those fun things you experience with this, and you're shut in a lot, and you're really cut off, and everyone's looking at you like, why can't you just work? Why can't you just do this? Why can't you do that? And they don't understand. I do think the one thing that we can work on, or one thing we control, is being happy. And maybe like being happy is instead of like, I mean, I've read and I've seen in a lot of places that people say like a lot of people that have this are like type A. And I definitely, for sure, very goal driven, and I want to accomplish a lot. So it's frustrating for me because I don't feel like I'm accomplishing a lot while this is going on. But then you really have to take a far step back at the little things and try to appreciate the little things. And it becomes when you go through. I've gone through periods of bad months where I'm not getting out of bed, not getting out of the house, and finally I have that day where I get out of the house, and it's crazy. Just like, oh my gosh, I got in the car and I drove to the store today. I mean, and got some stuff, and it's like, oh, I ran an errand, but it's like it's really exciting when you feel like you haven't done it. So I think appreciating the little things is really important. And another thing is, I feel Okay, so maybe we'll do part two. But I think the first thing that I've got out of it is like